Imagine embarking on an unforgettable journey through the heart of Italy, where every turn is a new treasure and every moment is filled with beauty and culture. You start your adventure in Rome, the eternal city. Next, you venture into the rolling hills of Tuscany, where the air is perfumed with the scent of vineyards and olive grove. The journey continues to Venice, the floating city of canals and gondolas, after Five Earth and Milan. But your Italian adventure doesn't end on land. It's about to get even more extraordinary. A magical journey through Italy, topped off with a house music festival on Costa Cruise. Dance under the stars, relax in style, and discover exclusive performances on deck, all while sailing to some of the most beautiful destinations. There are 3 packages to choose from. Sailing dates are from September 24th through the 28th, 2025. Book yours now at festivaloncruise.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Heidi's house. This is your host, Queen Bee Heidi B. And today's featured guest is Chicago's own Gabriel Rodriguez. He's a DJ, music producer, and remixer. I'm so excited to have him joining into this podcast. So, are you ready to hear more about his house music journey? Then, let's go. So, here he is. Gabriel Rodriguez is in the house. Woo! Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
I'm so excited to have you joining into this a little podcast titled Heidi's House, that it's really embracing the global house music culture. All over the world, we have different artists, DJs, music producers, remixers, radio personalities, influencers, and more joining in. And I'm very, very, very happy and grateful and humbled to have you straight from Chicago, from the origin of house music, to join us and share about your house music journey. So thank you again for taking time and joining in.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on your show.
And as you know, this is a very short kind of snapshot kind of interview where we take a little bit closer look on your personal house music journey. So if it's okay for you, I'm going to go straight ahead to our first question.
Sure.
And that goes, can you tell our audience a little bit who is Gabriel Rodriguez in your own words?
Well, I've been in the music scene for about 40 years now. So I was there from the transition period where they were playing Italo disco, and then it kind of just segued into funk, into house music. So I was there for all that.
Yeah.
And I've been in the music scene for a pretty long time. I've been producing for probably over 23 years now. Took some time off, came back in 2021, and just kind of jumped right back into the production thing again.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, we are going to take a little bit more looks into some particular highlight moments of all that almost 40 years, like you described, from the beginning of the house, when we are celebrating also the 40th anniversaries of the house music and everything. So you really have been there straight from the beginning, and in Chicago, where it originated. So now the very exciting question goes, what got you to the house music originally back in the days?
Well, actually, it was my cousin. I have an older cousin that liked to dance a lot. So she was taking me to different places. I was very young. I probably shouldn't have been at some of these places. But I did get a chance to actually see with my own eyes Jamie Principle and Frankie Knuckles perform. I got to see Ralphie Rosario perform. I got to see Liz Torres performed, Jesse Velez performed. So pretty much, I was in the scene very, very young, but I started early, I should say.
Yeah.
And and that was it. I mean, I actually got into the whole dancing thing. I think in Chicago at that time, everyone was into the dancing thing because the terminology back then was the jacking. Everybody was jacking.
Yeah.
So it was pretty big back then. So yeah, that's pretty much how I would say not just myself, but the majority of the Chicago DJs around that time. That's pretty much how kind of everybody got into it. WBMX was one of our big influencers. I've been recording. See, back then we used to record on tape, on
Yeah. Yeah.
cassette tape. So that was another Chicago thing where we couldn't get mixes anywhere else. So we would record them, and it was like they were just inspirational to us, and that's really how the majority of Chicago DJs got into house music.
Yeah, I was just checking the other day. There was a post, a little reel done by Steve Silk Hurley about the Chicago and the origins of house music, how it all started there, and how he said that the ethos there, or the idea is that you can really like describe also house in a way that you can make a house track, create a house version of most of the danceable tracks and club sounds and so on. And that was something that was really like something that Chicago gave to the world there, that this orientation that you can make a house version of basically anything that you wanted to do with that particular sound and particular gear that was also available at that time, and those particular elements and so on. So that leads me to the next question. So you started as a DJ, right?
That is correct, yes.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about your DJing career?
Well, I pretty much have been a lot on the radio. I've been at least on six Chicago radio stations. I was on two, let me think. Back in the day, I was on I was aired on two television programs.
Mhm.
Uh, and I've done everything from the clubs to smaller events. You name it, I've been there. Back in Chicago, we used to have a lot of Battle of the DJ type of events, and I was fortunate to win a good handful of those. Um, and there was a period where I got into the whole scratching and doing tricks type of thing, which was new. We're talking like maybe late 90s. It was kind of a big thing that kind of hit Chicago at the time. But yeah, I've kind of had my hand in kind of like every aspect of DJing that you could think of.
Amazing, amazing. And when you mentioned really back in the days, you have seen the evolvement of the DJing gears, equipment, styles,
Oh
and and,
yeah, that's
and
for
how it
sure.
has evolved. What would you say personally, your preference when it comes to the DJing nowadays? What would you prefer nowadays as a
Um, as far as DJing nowadays, I don't do it as much. I got really into the music production of
Mhm.
things. So there was a period where I kind of like, how could I say this? So when you look at music producers like Giorgio Moroder or producers like that, those guys weren't DJs, they were just producers.
Yeah.
And I kind of got more involved in the music production side of things, where I transitioned from being a DJ to a producer, and then I feel like now I'm a producer that can DJ, if that makes any sense.
Ah, yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so it I DJ, not too often. Last year, I did do an appearance at Navy Pier in Chicago, which was it was fantastic. It was like I can't even tell you how many people were there, but it was great. It was a good time. But but yeah, that's really about it. I kind of am more on the production side. I haven't really dive that much into the DJing thing as much as I probably should, but I'm just really focused on producing music right now. Like that's my art, and I have a lot of projects I'm working on right now, so it's like I don't even have time for anything else.
Mm, yes, yes. And would some people are still really much when we talk about the DJing and gear and everything, that there are still a lot of people who want to keep it to the vinyl, for instance, or then the people who rather rather do it digitally. What is your take? What would you prefer
What
when
would I prefer as far as I'm sorry, what was
as far as DJing?
as far as the equipment goes, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um so I I did like the feel of turntables. I'm not gonna lie. That was one of the first things I started on. And there's just something about mixing on turntables that I just feel is just authentic.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I've 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 mixed on other gear, but pretty much, I mean, I don't think anything can really surpass that feeling. Although it's a pain, to lug around and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I really enjoy the vinyl type of thing. I still have all my original vinyls.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I have like a whole, I have a whole,
Library.
whole mess. Yeah, yeah, sure. I
Yeah.
can't get rid of them. They're just too historical
Yeah.
to get rid of.
And it is a beautiful feeling, and I have to say also there's some kind of magic there when you really you need to feel it and everything. I remember back in the days I tried to do a bit of the vinyl. I'm not saying that I was good at it, but I did get the nice feel when I was using that gear and so on. But I always salute people who are really, who have mastered that and know how to scratch and everything, properly, as a fellow DJ, so to say. But that's beautiful to hear, and I can imagine that the library must be big.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. It was just endless buying records. I mean, that was one of the things that was kind of cool too, back in the days as far as like our record stores.
Mm,
Um, a lot of historical record stores, kind of opened the doors for DJs to buy house music.
yeah, yeah,
And so that's why a lot of the Chicago DJs, vinyl and spinning on turntables is like an art form that they just don't want to let go of. And I get it. I get it because it started everything. So yeah.
exactly. Well, yes. So you were then, DJing and playing in several radio stations. You mentioned 9 different radio stations all over Chicago, and then you went into producing music. So what got you to that?
I would say, you know, being a DJ, I guess that's what you kind of want to transition to. And one of the big influences, I guess, to me was watching Masters at Work and watching what they did. And I followed them like so long ago. And I followed their career and I always, was inspired by that. And so like, in the mid 90s, I really set my goal to get into music production. And I just didn't want to I just didn't want to get into music production, but I wanted to master the art of music, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So I really learned the whole, I learned music theory and so many other different aspects that I think now, is helped me out tremendously, And then I also worked at a music retail store called Sam Ash Music.
Mhm.
So I really got to learn all the hardware, and this is before like the DAW program. So I got to like basically learn how to hook up studios via MIDI, with keyboards and sound
Mm.
modules and all the hardware that goes with that. So it all helps out.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And when you mentioned the fact that you educated yourself when it comes to music theory and with the studio techniques and using media and everything, it really it does pay itself back. Or how do you say? We say it does pay off, right?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. In several ways, and especially when it comes to then the music productions, of course, and understanding music, creating music, arranging music, and so forth. So it's a something that I I I personally would encourage people to invest still during this time when most of the things can be done with the help of AI and so forth. But I'm always saying that please don't skip those kind of parts because you never know. And it trains your musical skills personally and the understanding of how the music works, so to
Oh
say.
yeah, for sure. When I was working at the music store, I was picking the brains of musicians and asking them questions and trying to learn about music as much as possible. So I would ask jazz musicians and blues musicians and rock musicians and how do you do this and what is this and how are you supposed to do this? So, I kind of took all that in and pretty much, that's what you get today. What you hear from me is what I've learned from the industry or hands-on or just like I said learning music theory so I think it's pivotal if you want to be a good producer if you want to move forward in music you kind of need to know the nuts and bolts of everything.
I totally agree with that, definitely. And you mentioned about, nicely, because next question would have been, what are your greatest influences when it comes to producing music? So you already mentioned masters at work, but uh, who would be some other great inspirations when you develop
I
your music?
I have quite a list. One of the guys that I really, I mean, if we want to talk about 4/4 beat, I know a lot of times people want to say, house music was the first, or the first form of electronic, but it really wasn't. Giorgio Moroder with Donna Summers, I Feel Love. Uh, that kind of was a 4/4 beat, and that was using a drum machine. So and a lot of the early Italo stuff was the same way.
Yeah,
So one thing that I do know is that a lot of people, when they talk about house music, they talk about disco, but they don't give enough credit to Italo disco because that kind of was the first electronic form of music that everybody just doesn't talk about.
yeah.
Because back in the days, I used to listen to all that stuff, and it was a big influence on me. And then again, Masters at Work. Um, so I mean, I enjoy Masters at Work because they took our house music and changed it up and started adding the live instrumentation and started getting into more of the jazzier sound. So I got influence from those guys because and as well as the Chicago guys too. Steve Hurley is another one. Ralphie Rosario is another one. He's one that was a pioneer, and he's still very big in the music scene with his music production. Um, There's new guys that inspire me. There's a guy named his name is Inaki Garcia from Spain.
Oh yeah.
He is amazing. Narf Zayed from Spain is amazing. Mijangos from California is like yeah he's one of the best that's for sure. Lewis Radio from Groove Bomb. Uh, and we got some Chicago guys that are coming up. I think you had Sweet Georgie on here.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I
He's
did.
doing well. He's doing well. We
Absolutely.
got Rich Martinez was another guy that kind of inspired me. He was on Chicago Track Records back in the days. Now he is running his own record label coming from Chicago called Chicago Skyline Recordings. Um, Another person I would say is the Funky Black Man. He's pretty amazing. Joe Fresco, I just put out a track with him.
Oh
Um,
yes, yes.
yeah, so there's a lot of inspiration that I draw from, and I feel that I don't stop there. I love music, so I try to listen to everyone's style and see what they're doing and what direction they're taking because everybody kind of has their own flavor, you know. I've listened to your stuff and I'm like, oh wow. Matter of fact, I charted your one of your songs. I was pretty amazed. It was good job.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. My personal journey has been I've done all sorts of stuff. You know, I think you have that wide appetite in music. I'm always calling it as a wide appetite in music, and
Mhm.
I recognize that in people and in myself as well. And I think it's a great thing to do that we explore a little bit. You know, we stay in touch with different music styles, artists, influences, and then it keeps our own productions then very fresh and up to date, so to say. I don't know the better word to describe it, but it's kind of ongoing process. So
It keeps it fresh.
it keeps
Yeah.
it fresh. Yeah, that's a
Yes.
very
Yes.
great way to say it.
I believe that if you have a good song that it's a long-lasting song. It's timeless.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I'm doing now is I'm not trying to corner myself into doing one certain style of music. So
Yeah.
now I'm starting to use what I know and I'm starting to dive into jacking now and Afro and I'm going to be doing some deep house, some soulful house. I'm working on a gospel house. So I'm going to really start to expand this year. You're going to hear a lot of different styles coming from me.
That is absolutely wonderful. And this is something that I think we share also, that I have said to myself that let's not limit to one genre. So therefore, I've been working with all different, producers representing different genres, and I think it's a great thing, to do. And now, I have to come back to what you said before because. The importance of an influence of Italo disco, it was there and it was like strongly there. And I have to say also that it maybe hasn't been recognized
No, not at
as
all.
much as it should have been and as much as it deserves, because back in the days, I mean, I went to clubs during those days, also probably a little bit too young, but still, and that was the thing, that the best DJs were also playing and introducing, the folks, together with the wave of house music that we experienced then here in Europe, also, here in Finland, in towards the end of 80s and beginning of 90s. So it was all that
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
beautiful blend of music, and I'm just glad that we have had the opportunity to experience that. But yeah, I had to say that I completely agree with you that the Italo disco is something that people watching this, go and check check some classic Italo disco tracks out, so you know what we mean. And also please check those artists and influences that were mentioned here. I always love the fact that my guests, when they share about their journey, they also educate the audience and inspire them to listen um, different kind of musics and works and producers and artists and so forth. Now, uh, before I continue to ask some about some particular highlights, I would like to ask this, and it might be Mission Impossible, but I tend to ask it anyway. Are there some particular tracks that have been with you, you know, throughout the years somehow that you never get tired of, that inspire you constantly? Are there some kind of tracks, maybe your own tracks or some tracks that somehow?
You know, there is one track that we produced back in the early 2000s, and it was a special track that I believe is a timeless track. It kind of had that Afro Latin type of jazzy sound, but it was done in the early 2000s, and it sounds like it would be out now. And the reason why it's a special track is because at the time I was working at Sam Ash, and there was a gentleman named Mike Saxon that was actually he was a bass player for Roy Davis Jr., for Glenn Underground, for Boo Williams, and Joe Smooth. And me and him were working together, and we were in the middle of this project, and we also got this female singer, Nature Love, on it. And as we were in the middle of the project, he passed away. So we kind of finished the song, and that track kind of just I can always go back to it and listen and say that was where I started right there. And then before he passed, it was kind of crazy. We had a moment, and he was telling me that he really liked my music production, and that we should create a crew, which we did. And so he was from New York. He moved to Chicago briefly, and then since I was from Chicago, he says, "Why don't we come up with like New Yo? And since you're from Chicago, let's do New Yo She." And I said, "Okay." And as you notice on all my songs, it'll say Neoshi mix. So
Yes, yes,
that's where that comes from.
that's what that comes from. Oh, it must be something that you will cherish for the rest of your life, of course, and that experience. And again, thank you for sharing this with our audience as well. So thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
and if I may now lead this interview to the next thing. This is definitely one of the important things in your music career. But what would you say? You've done DJing, you've been in radio, you've done music producing, you have released, you have had chart-topping tracks, and you performed everywhere basically. So what would you still say that are the most highlight moments in your career so far?
Um, so I used to work for a Latin radio station called Univision Radio. And they're huge. They're all over United States and viewed throughout the world. So they had a big event where I was spinning, and I was opening up for a Latin Grammy award-winning artists. They were reggaeton artists, Wisin and Yandel, and it was it was definitely a memory that I won't forget. And that was one of I'm going to say one of the biggest events that I've done. I mean, I think there was like 5,000, 6,000 people, something like that. However, capacity, the place was filled.
Yes.
Um, and then going back to your question, another thing that kind of influenced me has been the whole, and this is something else you don't hear about.
Mhm.
So we're talking about 40 years of house music. So this year it would be 40 years of Latin house music. Okay, nobody talks
Mm,
about that. That's another
yeah.
thing nobody talks about. Nobody talks about Latin producers and Latin DJs in Chicago. We get overlooked. So one of the people that inspired me to actually continue to do the Latin house stuff, that's why I'm big on it, is Jesse Velez and Ralphie Rosario, Mario Diaz, Liz Torres. I can go on and on. I have a whole list of Latin influences that were involved in house music that you just don't hear about in any
And people
documentary.
need to. So I'm very
Right.
happy that you address this point because it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true that there's also this kind of big gap of recognition that is still needed there. And I'm just thinking, the house music in general, it's still, of course, a genre that should and deserves more recognition. But then a subgenre is within that also, just
Right,
as
it
you
was
mentioned.
created. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why, people ask me, well, why do you support, Afro-Latin so much? And I said, well, that's Latin house. That started in Chicago. No one talks about it. It started in Chicago in 85. Jesse Velez was the first one with Girls Out on the Floor. And I said, and from there, I mean, look at it today. And it started in Chicago and nobody talks about it. It started in Chicago, went to New York, and then now it's just everywhere.
So people, educate yourself with this, and I'm happy that we have Gabriel here sharing about this. What would you say that are the essential tracks for anybody that wants to learn more about the Latin house? Essential tracks to listen.
Um,
How does
there's
that shape
there's so
the sound?
many, there is so many out there. I would just say if you're a music lover, go to Track Source and just, go to the Afro Latin and Brazilian and just put on a pair of headphones, have a glass of wine, and I mean, there's so much good music out there. I couldn't even pinpoint one song because there's just so much good stuff out there.
But as you mentioned, the producers already, so that's a great place to start, I think, when searching more influences on that subgenre itself. But I'm glad that you mentioned that. Now, Gabriel, that this was a very short snapshot kind of interview, so I wanted to go to the also to the fact that you have been awarded from your contribution, to the house music and everything. Would you like to share a little bit about that to our audience?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this past summer, in 2024, they had what's called the Latin Living Legends. And it's very, very similar to what I just touched up on. So in Chicago, as I said before, the Latino community does not get any mention, like we didn't exist in house music. And I'm one of the people that can say we did. So that was kind of the idea behind the Latin Living Legends was uh, they wanted to give awards for the people that actually helped pave the way and were influences to the younger generation of DJs.
Mhm.
So with that being said, I was offered an award, and I'm very grateful to Greg Vargas is actually one of the guys that put this together, and he was a promoter back in the days, and it was a special night for sure. It was. it was something long overdue. And I think now that that has came about, you're going to see more of that now. So you're going to start to see more of um, people in the music industry starting to notice that that the Latin people have been here working on this music as well, and you know we're making our mark right now.
Wonderful. And again, congratulations.
Thank
Well
you.
deserved and much overdue, like you mentioned. But sometimes I think the good things take time. But at least we are happy now that we are at that point that it's starting to get the recognition that it truly, truly, truly deserves. Now I have a little moment left in this interview window that I would like to now dedicate that time, if possible, to ask about your current projects and what can we expect from Gabriel Rodriguez.
Okay. I just completed a jacking song that will be out on Anako Records. It's on pre-sale right now, and it should be out, I think, in 2 weeks from now. I just released, me and Joe Fresco just did something for Kniche Music, which right now is in the top 10 of Afro, Latin, and Brazilian, which we're very proud of. Um, uh, I am currently working on an Afro Latin project with native music recordings out of UK. And there's something that will be coming out in April on Groove Bomb from Italy with Lewis Radio. And that one is more of I got a little more musical with that one. That one's going to be more like a Latin jazzy, a lot of live instrumentation work. It's definitely, I would say, one of my better projects. So it's one to look out for sure.
Oh, now we are super, super, super excited. So once again, I thank you for this little sweet interview moment with me. I would love to have heard some more, but maybe we will do episode number 2 or sequel. How is it called? Sequel for this session one day.
Sure. Whenever you're ready, you let me know.
Yes. Again, I thank you so much, and everybody, please check those artists, check those tracks and music that was mentioned during this interview, and educate yourself also on Latin house. And if somebody wants to find out more about you, where can they find you in social media?
So basically, I know there's so many Gabriel Rodriguez's out there. So I pretty much put Gabriel Rodriguez Niyoshi. So if you do a search on Gabriel Rodriguez Niyoshi, you're going to find all my social media.
All right. So I thank you for this interview and lots of love from Helsinki, Finland.
Thank you. And I'm sure people in Chicago are definitely going to like this show.
Thank you. Take care and many blessings.
Same, likewise.